actually getting, the nutrients right, and, and the levels of fiber, antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids into products that actually taste good is one thing. But honestly, the other thing is I want to welcome all of you to this listening session and discussion about Step 1 foods. You are all Step 1 customers, and I so appreciate you being here to share your stories about Step 1 foods, how it's impacted your health and your routines, and then answer any questions you might have about the products or the program or heart health in general. So maybe in that spirit, we'll go around the circular couch and have everyone, tell us their first name maybe, and just kind of how they stumbled upon Step 1 foods and, what led you to try the program. Judy, let's start with you.
Yes, I'm Judy. I have probably only been on the Step 1 foods for maybe 6 to 9 months. I kind of have a history of being severely overweight. Actually, I've lost between 45 pounds in the last, 7-8 years.
Congratulations.
And so awesome. That was a huge thing for me. And I did most of it by eating better and just eating lots of fruits and vegetables and lots of chicken and not much beef, and did all that kind of stuff just really, and I did use some other weight loss programs in the past. And so that's kind of part of how I got there. But once I got there, I really wanted to stay there. And I honestly don't recall, other than maybe I saw a mailing of some kind about Step 1 foods, but I tried it and it sure makes life easy. So when I want to have a snack, instead of having a snack, I have a Step 1 foods snack. They're my snacks. Without fail, at least 3 or 4 days a week, I do have non-fat Greek yogurt. And in my yogurt, I put the sprinkles, the blueberries, and that's how I enjoy that. And I have them many times a week. It's just that's my favorite breakfast. And beyond that, I only eat 2 meals a day these days. I kind of eat breakfast, and then I eat an early afternoon lunch din. And so if I'm hungry, like, 6, 7 o'clock or before bed, I'll have another Step 1 foods product. And it works. It really works. I've been able to maintain my weight for a long time, at least 4 or 5 years now. And the Step 1 foods has just made my life, I will say, easier than it was before.
That's great.
So that's kind of my story.
That's a great story. So glad you're here.
Thank you.
Susan, tell us about you.
Hi, I'm Susan, and I think I saw something on TV when you were on TV, maybe like 2018, I think.
Yeah.
And it was about that time that my husband and I both had our physicals, and those numbers were all kind of borderline, and especially my husband, the doctor was like, "Oh, we need to start some medication," and it's just like, okay, well, I saw this thing on TV. Do we want to spend the money on it? And it's like, well, it's better than medicine, right? So we started using it, myself more faithfully than my husband, but we use it pretty much. I use it every day, once a day, sometimes twice. My husband pretty much uses it every day. He puts it in his protein drink, the sprinkles in his protein drink, and uses that way. And since 2018, my glucose has come down by 50 points, and my cholesterol has come down 40 points, and my husband's glucose came down 20 points. And so, we are just thrilled with not having to be on medicine. So
that's amazing. Those are huge health improvements.
It's a big deal. I mean, it's nice to us to be able to not have to go on medications, not to go on statins, not to go on stuff for diabetes or anything, and to just be able to do it that way and enjoy it and Yeah, and just on once a day even. So not even twice a day. I don't know what would be if we were twice a day. So yeah.
They have
So
to
we are
add
grateful.
cholesterol to your food.
Yeah, right. Oh, so we're just grateful. We are really grateful, and it's just so worth it to be able to eat well and have those kind of results. So
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
Gail, you're up.
Okay, so I discovered Step One Foods on Instagram, and it was shortly after my husband had sort of a surprise cardiology visit that prompted him to have semi-emergent 5 heart stents.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he is one of the people that is big word like the familial.
Familial hypercholesterolemia.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So that's a
Wow.
genetically
It is.
transmitted very high
Right.
cholesterol
Yeah.
level.
So he has battled cholesterol and been also one of those people who has been a statin failure, would get serious muscle pains and stuff like that. So after his procedure and some new meds that he also has to be on, we decided to start trying this.
Yeah.
I have a thyroid disorder and I see a functional medicine doctor. I'm a little bit less interested in meds too. And although my cholesterol wasn't at a point where I was in need of a medication, I asked her about this and she said, food, yes, meds, no. So we started this and I think his cholesterol has dropped, I want to say 50 or 60 points.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I think I'm down like 20 or 25.
That's
So
wonderful.
we love it. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yogurt and the sprinkles. We add it's a ginger, dark chocolate covered little ginger yummy that is super good with the sprinkles and the yogurt. That's our favorite.
No, you'll have to bring that by sometime. That sounds pretty good.
It's really good.
Chris?
Hi, my name is Chris, and so my story goes back a little bit longer. I used to think I had a healthy diet when I was in my 20s. Found out very differently. Pizza's not healthy. It doesn't have all the 5 different food groups like they used to tell
Pizza
you.
is a food group.
All in itself. I had just was very active, and I had a traumatic injury when I was 34, and was very inactive for about 12 years. Had a heart attack at 46.
Wow.
And which was interesting because all of my physicals were okay. My total cholesterol was bouncing right around 200, so it wasn't alarming.
Yeah.
Anything that was thought to require intervention, but when you have a heart attack, they do more detailed blood work. So it turned out that my HDL was quite low. I think my vitamin D was low. My son, we were seeing my doctor of functional medicine, an MD, that my son was going to, and in one of his office visits, I said, "Can you help me?" And so we did some very extensive blood work. Right now, I still do an annual cardio IQ at Quest Diagnostics because he was actually working on particle sizes and things like that. So my particle sizes were way out of whack. Boatload of supplements, which is typical of functional medicine. One of the ones was beta-sitosterol, so I'm familiar with plant sterile esters and things, and I don't take a beta-sitosterol any longer, but am well aware of the benefits that it helps, I think, with the particle sizes and things. So as a result of that event, I too changed my eating habits. I didn't go on a diet. I just changed my diet. And as a result, I lost 25 pounds. I didn't consider myself overweight. My doctor had mentioned it on occasion. I'm still right about the top of my target weight right now. But I still see this functional medicine doctor on an annual basis. Last thing I did, did a whole test for tick-borne pathogens and environmental toxins, which was very interesting. So I did a 6-month detox. And I read Dr. Mark Hyman's book, Food, What the Heck Should We Eat, which was a fascinating read. I've read Paul Eck's books and things, so I follow it. I think probably about a year or so. I don't know how I came across Step 1 Foods, but I looked on the website and out of curiosity, placed an order. I came to the open house. I've placed a few orders. Right now I'm on a subscription one. There was one that came out, and my wife's been eating most of those bars, which is fine. But probably will, at risk of saying something my wife would be very upset about, she's also another very sad statin story, and was very compromised by statins, and they also, a couple doctors think it compromised her immune system, and she has been fighting chronic Lyme for about the last dozen years. So, but they feel that the statin reactions was in part of why the Lyme was able to take hold.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Vicki, and I have the pleasure of not only being a Step 1 customer, but also a patient of Dr. Klodas's. And interestingly, we have a history of being mothers of sons who were part of a high school robotics team together. Yeah. So my journey to Dr. Klodas and to Step 1 came about at the beginning of December 2020. I had a physical, and it included a cholesterol lab, and those numbers came back. I've always been a person who's had family high cholesterol, but the number that I got was, I guess I can share, was in the low 400s. And my size is no different than it was back then, so weight wasn't.
I had the same reaction, by the way.
It was. It's still hard for me to look at that and think, did they mix me up with somebody? But I really don't think they did, because if I really look at what I was eating, I liken it to that of a toddler kind of run amok who just did what they wanted to do. So, so in the middle of the night, I was Googling, because my primary physician. Just basically the only discussion that came up once the numbers were high was the type of statins that we should explore. Nothing about food, nothing to change anything about the way I was eating. And I just, my mother also had bad reactions to statins, and I've always been averse to them. So I thought, well, I'll see what I can do. So there I, Dr. Google, and up came Step 1 Foods. And as I was looking more at the information about it, I thought, this is Liz from high school days, Dr. Klodas. So I had my husband, I am not on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or anything, so he sent a message to Dr. Klodas, would you be willing to see Vicki? In I came to your office. Yeah. I had started the Step 1 Foods prior to that, because I literally overnight changed my diet 180 degrees. Everything, white sugar, white flour. My husband's an amazing chef, so he was on board to help me through food change the way that I eat, function in life. But of course, he can't be available to me 24 hours a day, 365. So I needed another cook in my life. And here came Step 1. So I started it a few weeks before I first met with you. I think as a patient, one of the things that was so different about our initial visit was the 1 hour, and that's not an exaggeration, 1 hour visit that you had included my husband in, and we just said about how can we lower this. I think at the time, and I think it's something to know, you're not always going to be able to not go on a statin, and I think we talked about that, but it was worth a try, and that's what I appreciated. So I was probably as religious as anyone can be in following a Step 1 diet. I think I had one potato chip over the holidays, and that was it. And my initial numbers, I think you wrote a blog about it, were almost hard to believe, but true. I went from low 400s to somewhere in the 200s. And more importantly, my HDL went up, my LDL went down, my total ratio went from like 5 to 3.4, everything across the board, not just the main number, but really the things that you want to be up were up and down. So then I think we thought, well, let's just go another 3 months, see where we land. At the end of 3 months, I was probably even more conscious of eating. And this was during the pandemic, so it was a little easier to not be tempted by restaurant food and things. But those numbers then came in a little bit more where they had always been in my life. mid to upper 200s. So you went the extra mile to say, let's now look at inside of you. So we did the coronary calcium scan. Amazingly, that came back at 0. So at that point, you said, just keep eating well, and we'll revisit this in a few years. So I have, even though I'm not maybe continuing through step 1 to lower my cholesterol, I am continuing with my healthy diet, and step 1 is definitely part of that. I would say you feed me twice a day. This morning it was the apple cinnamon bar, and then it was the anytime sprinkles over yogurt, and it's really important. It's important when I travel. I'm a person who is on the road a lot. I'm in my car a lot, and you can reach for several things. And if one of them is a step 1 food product, there's no worry. The price point, think of it like a Starbucks latte or something. It's the same amount of money, and there's a lot more nutrition in your bars and products. So I guess I've been on it for now 18 months and don't see myself stopping. It's just easy, convenient, and it's now just become part of, I feel like whatever I'm opening up, it's healthy, it's real, and it's good for me. So can't be anything wrong with that. No more guilt. I don't have to feel guilty anymore for the things I eat. Yeah, I mean, it's really been just a total game changer. So, yeah, so thank you.
Wow. Well, so from left to right, amazing stories. And, what I'm struck by is it's helped very different situations, right? And achieve kind of, in some sense, similar but different goals, right? There's weight maintenance, there's blood sugar improvement, there's, statin issues, there's chronic, inflammation and other health conditions, and there's, pretty high cholesterol. Yes, she wore a blog. But it's so rewarding to hear that we've helped, and that's truly why step 1 exists, is to help people achieve their best health. And we are step 1. We don't control your stomach all day long. That's impractical. But we are here to be a resource and to be something you can trust when you need to reach for something to eat. So, okay, at this point, let's open it up to questions, or I'm here. So if you have anything you want to ask me about your own program or your own health.
If you would say that, because I do take a lot of supplements too with working with functional medicine.
Yeah.
By eating step 1 foods, would you say that there are any particular supplements that a person could conceivably drop off?
Yeah.
So
I'm a big believer in food. I'm a big believer in attaining your nutrients through food, because I think there is something special not only about the nutrient but by the delivery vehicle and the context in which a nutrient arrives. So when I see patients and when we talk about this, I often talk about like a vitamin C, right? So
That's
vitamin C in blueberries, right? It's, that vitamin C arrives in your body knows what to do with it. It's like, oh, okay, I recognize this. It's a vitamin in context. And so it's highly bioavailable. Our cells know what to do with that nutrient. Extreme example, but vitamin C with a Twinkie, right? The body is completely confused. I don't know what to do here. This is weird. These things don't belong. I'm missing cofactors. I'm missing things that would normally allow me to absorb this, use this in a way that's most beneficial. So in general, I advise people to get their nutrients through food. Now, there are people that have deficiencies. There are people that may benefit from certain supplement combinations. I don't take people off of supplements if they're on them already. what I would say is, given the, what's in the foods, your beta-cytosterol is a perfect example. So beta-cytosterol is a plant sterol. It's one of the types of plant sterols that are, ubiquitous in food, but also present in step one. It's kind of one of the it's actually the only fortification in the food, because you couldn't otherwise get to these levels of plant sterols in just 2 servings a day. But you wouldn't have to take a plant sterol supplement if you're using step 1 foods. If you are using a fiber supplement, there's lots of fiber. 2 servings supply 10 grams of fiber, which can often be, the thing that takes you from someone who is deficient in fiber to someone who is meeting the daily recommended levels of fiber intake. And, there are some products they vary based upon composition for some other things. So vitamin C, for example, speaking of, there's a ton of vitamin C in the smoothie. I mean, it's chock full of strawberries and bananas. It's just a lot of berries in there. And so, one smoothie gets you 60% of your daily vitamin C. So in a food, in a food context. So kind of back to that bowl of blueberries. The other nutrient that is in all the foods is omega-3 fatty acids. So that's, the healthy fat. I do need to point out, though, that the omega-3 that's in step 1 foods is ALA, which is the plant-based omega-3. So that's from the flax and the walnuts and the chia seeds, almonds, so forth. Those supply omega-3 fatty acids. And those are essential, by the way. We cannot make ALA inside our bodies. The typical omega-3 supplements that people take are DHA and EPA. They are the marine-based omega-3s. They come from fish. They are much more bioavailable, so they're more readily used. But ALA can be turned into EPA and DHA inside our bodies. So that's where that's where you can get your omega-3s. Having said that, the conversion of ALA to EPA and DHA is not perfect. So if you're not eating fish, if you're not getting other sort of sources of omega-3s, a supplement may be okay. But it's interesting. Supplements are not perfect, and I don't mean to poo-poo them completely, because that's not my point. But they are different. They act differently on our bodies than the nutrients, like again in the context of food. For example, omega-3 supplements, so these EPA DHA supplements that people are taking, there's actually an increased risk of developing atrial fibrillation in people who take them, which is bizarre. Like, I don't really understand why that is, but it's consistent, whereas it's not happening if it's coming in the diet. So again, there's something about nutrients in context. So just keep that in mind. If you can get your vitamins and minerals and nutrients through food, get it through food. That is the best way to get them.
So the vitamin C in the smoothies, is that in the powder, or is it in the
It's from the
fresh
strawberries.
Okay, so the fresh fruits you would add to it then, or it's from the strawberries in the powder?
It's strawberries in the powder.
powder,
We
okay.
use freeze-dried strawberries. So they're really it's strawberries that have just
So it's
all
food,
the water taken out and ground. So all the nutrients are preserved. Okay, so we talked about supplements. Any other questions in that vein? Anyone having issues with that? Or?
Is a D3 supplement good to take?
So vitamin D is interesting, because unlike, I'm glad you actually brought that up, because unlike all the other supplements, which we should be able to get through food if we just, ate properly and, the ground was not depleted, right, of nutrients and, blah, blah, going down big rabbit holes. But vitamin D3, or vitamin D, is the sunshine vitamin, which means the only way we can get it is through our skin being exposed to the sun. It's very difficult to get vitamin D through food, unless it's been fortified. So So vitamin D, especially in northern climates, is almost epidemic. There's an epidemic of a deficiency. So it's very common to see vitamin D deficiency. So
There seems to be a difference of opinion about what level of vitamin D is too much.
yeah. So, if you look at the, Institute of Medicine, they'll say 800, international units, per day, which, most people that, kind of live in the nutrition space would say like, wow, that's not enough if you're doing this to, kind of maintain vitamin D levels. So typically 1,000 to 2,000 units per day of vitamin D3 is what's needed. But some people need much more, like 20,000 units a week, 50,000 units to really build up their vitamin D store. So everyone's a little bit different. And then there is controversy in terms of how the levels should be, what levels you should reach in the blood. So.
And some insurances are no longer paying for covering vitamin D testing, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So the beginning step one program has you subbing out 2 of your meals and using the step one products. So after that 30 days, what do you think about maintenance using the step one products? Would you continue to do it twice a day, go to once a day, a couple times a week? What's sort of what as the doctor, the prescribing doctor, what would you say is a great maintenance?
Yeah. So it depends upon what the goal is. So if you are using step one foods for maintenance of cholesterol levels or lowering cholesterol levels, well, it's kind of like a medication. It's if you're using a statin to lower your cholesterol levels, you need to keep taking the statin to get to the same result. So it's sort of the same with step one. If you're using it to lower cholesterol, you need to keep using it to keep your cholesterol under control, because there's nutrients in those foods that are resulting in that. But if you're doing this for weight loss, health maintenance, blood pressure reduction, and to some extent also cholesterol management, these foods are called step one for a reason. They're not step 1 to 100. They're not meant to make you dependent on a company or on a suite of products. It's really to get you started. Get you started in a good direction in health, prove to you that you have control over your health. Maybe not entirely, but to a large extent, you can have a big impact on your health and therefore your outcomes. And then use step one foods as a jumping off point, and for some people, they will look at this and say like, well, heck, I'm going to add salads, I'm going to do this, and then I'm just going to use this once a day and then see what happens, and then recheck, right? Maybe your cholesterol's fine, maybe your blood pressure is good, and again, this is meant to be something that supports you in a way that works for you, I often say that one of my greatest achievements professionally would be to put myself out of work as a cardiologist. But I would say my second greatest achievement would be to put myself out of work as a food manufacturer, that we lived in a food environment that actually promoted health. And instead, we live in a food environment that promotes disease. And, whether it's from what's in the foods themselves to how they're made, we're really behind the black ball, right? In terms of trying to succeed. It shouldn't be hard to lose weight and maintain weight. It shouldn't, that shouldn't even be something we're worried about. We should just be healthy. This journey has really taught me how difficult this can be. I used to send people if you just go shopping, just go cook. people go like, well, I went shopping and I bought all this stuff. But I'm like, oh, no, wait, like that's the wrong stuff. Actually getting, the nutrients right and, and the levels of fiber, antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids into products that actually taste good is one thing. But honestly, the other thing is finding people to make them. We make the core, the core ingredients that go into the products, but to make bars and powders and and various things. I mean, it takes a lot of equipment and a lot of infrastructure, and the most efficient way is there's lots of food manufacturers out there.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have learned through this whole process is that we've forgotten how to make food. Bars, for example, to make bars, we've tried to find bar manufacturers that will actually follow our formulas, because all they want to do is like, well, no, we have this equipment, and for it to work on this equipment, you have to add this flow agent or this syrup or this, blah, and it's like, no, that's the stuff that's actually the problem. You're asking me to add in the things I've worked so hard to take out.
Yeah.
And there's all these things in the grocery store, right? They have big red hearts on them and all this sort of, and you can be led down this path of really trying hard and being completely misled. And so, back to your question, I guess the original, because I kind of went off on a tangent,
No, it's
but
fine.
it's really to support you in the way that you need to be supported. If it's for cholesterol management, twice a day is what you need until you start eating in a way that makes up for those for one or two of those servings.
We're talking about cholesterol management, and I was so excited to have my annual, and then I also see a cardiologist because I do have some heart issues that are, both my mom and my dad had heart issues, and I was really hoping that I was going to be able to not take my statins.
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
So I still need to take my statins, but he was really excited that I was doing this program, and actually I I took some literature about step one foods. I printed out the internet. And he was actually, works for Minneapolis Heart, and he was actually interested and said he would take it and he would review the information. But I thought you'd really get a chuckle of the fact that I took some
She brought him a
literature.
bar too.
But he still, and I did. I didn't have any more chocolate bars left because that's my favorite. But he did get one of the apple cinnamon bars.
Yeah.
And the literature and stuff, and but he said you still can't go off your statins. But anyway, so that was my funny thing. I almost forgot about that.
Yeah.
I really wanted to share that. So that's within the last couple of months here, maybe 6 weeks ago. So
Yeah.
anyway.
And not everybody should be off of statins. The statins are appropriate for certain health conditions. If for your husband who has, coronary disease, in the ideal circumstance, he would be taking that medication. I would be prescribing it to him because it does have an impact on outcomes. But medications alone are not the whole answer. If you look at the data, even with perfect cholesterol numbers on statins, people still have cardiovascular events, and that's because we haven't addressed the whole person. It really needs to be a holistic approach to health. So
Yeah. So
Way to
anyway,
be
I'm on my
holistic.
statins, but I'm off of baby aspirin completely.
Oh, that's
so
good.
that one's gone.
yeah, excellent.
We're working on it.
That's always to me a success, is when the medication list starts to shrink. That's super exciting for me.
So as a cultural thing, I took my son to, I have a friend that lives in Sweden, and he had a son my same age as my son, so I took my son over. He was in 8th grade for about 10 days, and we flew into the Humphrey terminal, and he looked around, and he said, everybody looks so fat. This was a 14-year-old kid. That's the first observation he made coming back to this country.
Yeah.
And it's not incorrect.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but again, you know, I have empathy for people struggling with weight because, you know, I don't know if any of you have read the blog, but do you know what the perfect food is according to the food industry? Do you know what it is?
Apples?
It's the Cheeto.
The what?
Cheeto.
It's the Cheeto.
Wow.
Those little orange?
Yep.
What's
Yep.
the rationale for
And
that?
you know why? Because it's bright orange. I love orange actually, but it's bright orange. Because it's orange, and we love bright colors, so we're attracted to it immediately. It has the perfect crunch. When you bite it, it is absolutely 100% pleasurable. That is not by accident. It's due to hundreds of focus groups. Crunchy enough, not crunchy enough. Oh, there it is, the perfect crunch. It has the perfect combination of salt, sugar, fat, so it hits every single dopamine receptor in our brain. When you bite it, you know how it kind of disappears because it's just so full of air. There's an industry term for that. It's called vanishing caloric density. It's something that confuses your brain. You crunch it and it's kind of gone, and your body says your brain says, well, I don't know, did I eat something? Did I not eat something?
Oh,
Wow.
Evolutionarily, we are programmed to conclude we didn't eat anything. Keep eating. And you know how you get the orange on your fingers and you lick in between? Okay. It's an endless variety or intensity of flavor. We're never bored. Plus, it's cheap to make. It lasts forever. So, what could go wrong?
Wow.
What
You
could
just
go
die.
wrong?
That's like tongue-in-cheek. My functional medicine doctor says if you want to add more color into your diet, eat Skittles.
eat Skittles.
Yeah, but that is what we are up against, right? It shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard.
Well, this is back to when I was talking about how convenient your products are. You know, I think a lot of people, we reach for things that are the most convenient, and usually they come in packages. And what comes in packages, you know, they say you should shop the outside of the
Perimeter,
supermarket. You shouldn't shop the inside. Everything in the inside has a package. It's one of the things I love about your products. They come in packages. They're convenient, but it's all good for you. And that's not to be said for most things that come in packages. So good things do come in your packages. Yeah, and I just like to your son's comment about we've traveled overseas too, and there is a definite weight loss difference. But I just think when things that are not healthy are more convenient than things that are healthy. And there's also a cost part to that too. If I buy one apple and it's $1 and a bag of donuts is,
99 cents.
Yep. You're going to get 5 people to maybe have a meal out of the donut package and only one for the apple. But I think if you really look at your the price point of your product, it might initially, when you order your first box, seem a little high, but if you really see what you're getting for all that, and there's costs down the line, like health and nutrition that come, you're probably paying a lot less for your product than you might normally think.
There's a systems cost, right, to unhealthy food.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing is it is a substitute. So it is meant to be, instead of something you're eating already. So there's a cost of deferral. But I'm with you there. Taking care of people who are ill. It really, every single day I'm reminded about how priceless good health is. And that sounds like, sounds like a line, but it's true. It's true. Health and disease, they're great equalizers. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter, how big your family is, or, when you're sick, you're vulnerable, and it changes your life. And so avoiding that is hugely important. I've changed, I've changed my eating patterns a lot since I started on this journey too. I wasn't, I used to eat way more meat, and I wasn't even kind of thinking about it at all. But I've really tried to make a big difference, but I'm not perfect. Actually, like I joke, but it's true. Like I kind of started this company for myself because I really needed something also, that I could trust and I knew I could eat.
Along that line, so what was the aha moment where you said, I need to go into the food business?
Great question. I think, well, there are many aha moments. I can even go back to 1992, which was when I used to be a Total Raisin Bran girl.
Oh, yeah.
Every single day I ate Total Raisin Bran. That was my breakfast. And one day I bought a box. It was 1992, and I opened it. I poured the cereal out, and the raisins were covered in sugar. And I remember thinking, like, wow, this must have been a really bad batch of raisins that they had to put all this sugar on it. But like, okay, so I took the raisins out. I put my own, because it was just cloyingly sweet. It wasn't good. So I was like putting my own raisins, taking my own raisins out. And I'm like, okay, finished that box, went like, got another one, opened it, same thing. And like by the third box, I'm like, this is stupid. Like I'm wasting all this time taking raisins in and out. And so I have written one consumer complaint letter ever in my entire life, and that was to General Mills to say, you ruined a perfectly good cereal. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm done with Total Raisin Bran, so I started looking for other cereals, and I couldn't find anything. Everything was all of a sudden loaded with sugar. And so I actually started making my own, and this was the beginning of the sprinkle. And so I've been sort of eating that for many, many years. And then it became, well, you should, you should, I was giving out to friends. They said, well, you should maybe like start a company. And I thought, well, but what I really need to do is I need to help my patients. It's not about, making sprinkle for myself. There's so many people who could benefit from this. And so that it was gradual. I wouldn't say it was like one day I had like this epiphany, I must make this. It was kind of a gradual, almost self-education and journey as well.
So when did Step Foods start?
So Step One Foods, has been the line for, not the stuff I was making for my friends and things like that. This has been around now for about 7 years. Yeah.
So right now, the only way to access Step One is through online orders.
Online.
So a big question would be, how soon till you're in a grocery store? Is that something that's possible?
Actually, that's an interesting question, because we might never be in grocery stores. And the reason for that is the layers of cost. Again, education, my eyes have been opened on so many fronts. After I kind of entered this, I entered it completely blindly, like not knowing what I was getting myself into. But there are so many layers of cost between making a food and putting it on a grocery shelf that it would make these products unaffordable. And I think that's part of the reason why food is, the food is the way it is. There's no food in the food. I once read a analysis that looked at the actual cost of the food inside a cereal box. Well, in a $3.50 cereal box, I think the food cost was like 16 cents, or maybe using 14 cents. And the whole grains, which is like what you actually want to eat, was like 9 cents. I mean, there's no food in the food, right? It's all marketing and people making money along the way. Everybody wants a 35% margin. And so our foods would be like completely unaffordable.
So Earl Butt says he had a lot to do with our big food policy in this country. He grew up in the Depression, and his objective was to create the cheapest food supply in the world, and he succeeded.
Yeah, he did. Unfortunately.
But took a lot of nutrition out of it.
Yeah.
I might not be the only one, but I like my snacks. And it's a healthy product. It's good for you. And it keeps you out of all the snack food. And it meets that need probably more than anything. It's the way it's, the way it's packaged, the size proportions, all those kinds of things really lend itself to be a good snack food. When I look at my lab results and all those things with my recent physical, almost everything is, quite low and stuff. So if I had 3 step 1 foods in one day, that's not the end of the world, So that's my 2 cents.
I would say it's worked for me. It's worked for my husband. You owe it to yourself to give it a try before you start taking medicines, and just give it a try for 3 months, 6 months, see what kind of results you can get by it. It's worth it.
I think for us, we're kind of at the age where you're starting to have to consider that you might have to start taking medications. And that's never fun. So if there's something that you can do that incorporates it into your daily diet, and it alleviates that need for having to, it helps you feel like you're not aging as much, or you know what I mean, and especially if it's good, then that's appealing. That's appealing to me.
So I think that Dr. Hyman uses the term, and you use it too in a number of your blogs, and it's come up here is consistent with the diet where food is medicine. And
I agree.
And it's a lot cheaper than taking supplements. If you look at it from that standpoint, it's a lot cheaper than having adverse health events. It's certainly a lot more pleasant.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just about absolutely no guilt. It's a no-lose proposition. It's delicious food. I can eat it and not feel guilty in any way, shape, or form. I think there is a different flavor profile to healthy food, and I discovered this when I changed my diet so radically. We get used to additives and sugars and things like that that really change the flavor of real, true food. And so I think, some of the products, it's just that slight bit, we get used to the taste of what sugar is, and when sugar is out of things. But that passes quite quickly, and then I think you just feel so many benefits from it that it got to the point where I would crave every afternoon the dark chocolate bar with a little cup of coffee. And, to be able to eat chocolate, I think is huge, especially for women. A lot of diets, things like that, it's about restriction. And I like that your program is about the addition of things, food, healthy, ingredients, just that there's absolutely no guilt. It's a no-lose proposition. All win, all gain. Thank you.
Thanks to this, I can take chocolate home to my wife this evening.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you so much for coming, for sharing your stories, for sharing your experiences. It's, I am truly humbled when people make the effort to do this, because this tells me that we are making a difference, that we are helping people, and boy, is that a great feeling. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Have questions? I'd be happy to provide an answer. Step 1 Foods is here to guide and support you wholeheartedly on your journey to better health. So please reach out in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit follow to keep up to date with our latest releases. I'll see you next time.